welcome into Zak's Picks. I'm Zak McCullough. It's good to be back. Last week I went 7-1 on a somewhat of a short slate of games. I'm now 40-9 on the season. This week I've added a few more games that are not SEC just to beef up the number a little bit. We have some interesting games that have emerged this week, unexpectedly, definitely unexpectedly with Arkansas's case. So I'm going to go ahead and get right down to picking them. First of all, you see Connecticut traveling to take on Vandy. Vandy is a 14.5-point favorite. I think that Connecticut might just be the worst team in America. They got thumped by Holy Cross week 1. They haven't looked any good for any of the other games. So I think, and I never thought I'd be saying this year, Vandy wins big. They're 14.5-point favorites, like I said, and they cover. Next game is Troy traveling to take on South Carolina. South Carolina struggled against lesser opponents earlier in the season. They nearly, but it came down to a last-second field goal. I say nearly lost to East Carolina. They're 7-point favorites. I think that they're going to end up covering that. Troy is a good team. All right, don't get me wrong about that. But I don't think they have much of a chance in South Carolina because South Carolina's prepared after nearly falling to East Carolina. Next, we are going to step out of the conference for a little bit. Michigan traveling to Camp Randall to take on Wisconsin. Michigan's a 1-point favorite, and that's a surprisingly low line. You'd think that Michigan would be a little higher than that, considering that Wisconsin's probably one of the biggest busts of the 2021 season. I think Michigan's going to come out there, and it'll be a close game for a while, but they end up pulling away and winning by about 10 points. Therefore, they will cover. Next, we have Liberty traveling to take on UAB in brand new Protective Stadium. UAB is a 1.5-point favorite. I think the fact that UAB is playing in their new stadium is going to give them an edge in this game. And you can throw the Georgia game out the window for UAB. They're a very good team. And Liberty, I say they're disappointed after going and losing last week in a very, very exciting matchup on a Friday night. So because of that, I think the Blazers get it done. Next is Cincinnati traveling to take on Notre Dame. An intriguing matchup has become a lot more interesting after watching the way Notre Dame thumped Wisconsin last week. Cincinnati is the favorite in this one. They are favorites by 2.5 points. That's surprisingly high. Surprisingly high, and I would think that Notre Dame get it done here. And that's probably because they found their rhythm. They found their rhythm against Wisconsin. And as for Cincinnati, they've struggled. They struggled against Indiana a couple weeks ago. They looked a little better over the week, but I still think Notre Dame has a new confidence, new belief in themselves, so therefore they win. Next, we're going to step back into the conference with some more conference games. We have the Tennessee Volunteers traveling to take on the Missouri Tigers. Missouri is a 3-point favorite. I think that this should be a good game. Low scoring, back and forth. I would say a good number of turnovers because neither team has looked impressive. But Missouri is at home. I think they're going to get it done. So they're going to win by a touchdown and take down Tennessee. And like I said, by a touchdown, so that means they cover. Next, we have Mississippi State at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a 7-point favorite. I think that Texas A&M is embarrassed after getting beat last week by Arkansas. So therefore, they come out here looking impressive and win big. And they cover. Next, we have Florida traveling to take on Kentucky. This was a game that was dominated. The series was dominated by Florida for a number of years, until Kentucky a few years ago finally came and won for once. This year, they're 8.5-point underdogs. I think Florida is a lot better this year than they were a few years ago when they were defeated by Kentucky. Kentucky is, they are not impressive. I mean, they're 4-0 and they're not ranked. That tells you something about how they've looked. And as for Florida, they're ranked 10th. So I think this really proves something about Kentucky. Not impressive. Struggled against Chattanooga 2 weeks ago. Struggled against South Carolina last week. So they're not going to win. Florida's going to come out and win, and they'll cover. Next, we have the game that Game Day is going to be traveling to this week. A very impressive matchup, like I said earlier, came on us in a heartbeat as an impressive matchup. We have Georgia, who many think should be the #1 team in America, and then Arkansas, who's been one of the surprise stories of the season. Georgia is an 18.5-point favorite. That is surprisingly high. I mean, very surprisingly. I don't think Georgia's going to cover. It's going to be a good game for at least a little while until Georgia starts pulling away. Georgia wins, but like I said, they don't cover. I think Arkansas is still on a little bit of a high after last week, and they're going to come down. They're going to be down a little bit early, and that's eventually going to come back to bite them at the end of the game. Next, we have an interesting story that has popped up quickly as well. Auburn traveling to LSU. And how is this an interesting story? TJ Finley finished the game for Auburn last week, and I think he'll be starting here. So he used to play for LSU. He was there last season before transferring to Auburn. LSU's a 3.5-point favorite. I think just because it's a transfer quarterback going back to play his old team, I think that gives Auburn, and frankly, I think that gives the whole team, not just the quarterback or the offense. It gives the whole team an advantage, so therefore they win. Even after Auburn did not look good against Georgia State last week, I still think Auburn is going to they're going to correct all their issues and come out and look impressive and win by a touchdown. Next, we have a very interesting matchup, especially seeing the way both teams have played this year. Ole Miss, who is ranked 12th, traveling to take on Alabama, who's top-ranked. And I think that the spread originally came out at 20 points. That was way too high, and you could tell by the way it dipped. It's now at 14.5. So I don't think Alabama covers. Do they win? It's going to be close. It's going to be very close because I don't think Alabama's defense is going to be able to stop Ole Miss. The way you see Ole Miss play, they are up and down the field quickly. They're going to put up a very large number of points. Probably is not going to be paralleled by any other team for the rest of the season. So Ole Miss comes out there, looks impressive, but eventually they don't get the victory as Alabama ends up pulling away. I think it's going to get a little closer towards the edge towards the end of the game, and Alabama wins by a touchdown. I'm going to give you a projected score on that. I think Bama wins 52-45. A very interesting matchup. A very good one. So I hope you tune in to watch that one. And like I said earlier, Alabama was a 14.5-point favorite. They don't cover. Not a chance of them covering. Well, that's all I have for you this week. Thanks to the Daily Mountain Eagle for hosting me this week. Have a safe day and God bless.